we finally finished first quarter of 2024, and lo and behold, home prices across the country, and especially up here in the Northeast, our home prices are up by 5% from last year. So it doesn't seem like we're getting any alleviation from new construction, once again, especially up here in the Northeast. And the other thing that's sort of interesting is that the interest rates don't seem to be stopping people from buying. So this is going to be your end of first quarter update from Nancy Chu Homes. Hi, I am Nancy from Nancy Chu Homes. When you get a moment, if you could just pause the video, scroll down, and leave us an answer to this question. Why do you think the interest rates don't seem to really be affecting our home prices? All right, so go and do that. All right, thanks for coming back. So let's talk a little bit about this, right? Home prices up 5%. Don't forget, we, especially up here, Jersey market, Northeast, we don't have any land, right? So unless we're talking about reforming laws and changing the kind of housing that we're putting out here, large-scale new construction is a little harder to come by. We are seeing some commercial conversions, but it's not really at the rate that we need in order to alleviate our housing shortage problems. So we're really looking at, municipal zoning laws that are changing, et cetera, changes to rules about how much parking a particular property may need. These are things that need to happen. And even if they do, I'll be the first to tell you, it's probably going to take about 10 years of building once those reforms have been put into place in order for us to finally catch up with our inventory problems. Now, another reason why home prices are up 5% other than inventory is just so you know, this whole first quarter, I would tell you a full 1/3 of properties that are being offered on are receiving offers of cash, and they are accepting offers of full cash. And of course, if you are offering full cash, then the interest rates aren't really super meaningful to you. Just for your information, our average down payment for homes in the United States right now is probably pretty close to 24%. That means that more people are putting down larger amounts of cash if they're not paying for it in cash fully, right? They're putting down larger amounts of cash to kind of offset that higher interest rate. And also they want to have more equity in the home, right? Now, don't forget, a lot of the people that are buying homes right now, they are fully utilizing, I would tell you, once again, a full third of people, they're utilizing family money in order to sort of make up for cash differences, in order to be more competitive, and also to turn that monthly payment into something that they think is more manageable. You also have a lot of folks who are purchasing, who are selling something in order to purchase, and they have a lot more equity in their places that they're selling, and they can use that equity to offset the down payment and reduce that mortgage amount for the next property that they buy, okay? It's interesting because, you really start to wonder who is out here buying, right? Something to be aware of, the average age of home buyers has really gone up. We have a lot of data since the 1980s, and the average home buyer age now across the country in 2023 was 49 years old. Now, as opposed to in 1981, when that average home buyer was 31 years old. That's across the board for all properties being purchased, right? Now, the average age of the first-time home buyer in 2023 was 35, while in 1981 it was 29. And from your parents, the boomers and your grandparents, they were buying homes a lot earlier than even 29. Many of them were married and had jobs and, were buying houses in their early 20s. So you're really seeing a step up in that age bracket. So you kind of wonder, what are those people doing, right? The ones that are sort of, it could be affordability issues. My thought process is that it takes a little bit to do that extra savings now. So you're probably looking at maybe settling down a little bit later just because your family formation is later. And at the same time, you're probably thinking, well, you know what? I'm going to save a little bit longer and really try to get that property that I really, really want. I do think that's a lot of the mindset that you're seeing. Now, one thing, and this is a warning that I really do have to make, you cannot outsave the market, all right? This is point blank, baseline. Please understand, it's very, very difficult to outsave the market, all right? For any of you who have listened to the video where we talked about the time value of money, the time value of money decreases the longer you save it, right? It's that whole chart of, in the 1940s, a dollar bought you 3 pounds of steak, and now it buys you a Wendy's Frosty. So that tells you that as much as you want to save the money, that money is worth less in terms of what it can buy the longer you save it, unfortunately. So we've got a lot of folks who I would consider to be high salary, low down payment folks, all right? So a lot of these young people that we've got coming through, they have amazing jobs, right? And they make a really good 6-figure salary, maybe even between the two of them. However, they may have saved less money for their down payment so far. And so they're maybe struggling a little bit because they're thinking about, well, maybe I only have 5% down, maybe I only have 10% down, maybe I have 3.5% because of an FHA. And I can make a good interest payment, but I can make a good monthly payment. But at the same time, what they think that they can buy may not be what they always thought they should have, right? If they're used to renting in a really comfortable luxury rental, then they're looking at the homes they can buy now going, okay, this feels like a significant step down in terms of condition, maybe a step down in terms of size, maybe a step down in terms of, floor plan, layout, etc. So you've got a lot of folks trying to make the decision, where do they start? Do they try to save more money and then try to get into that house that they think that they should have? Or do they start a little smaller? Do they go with that condo first? Do they go with that adorable 2-bedroom cape first? And that's a hard thing. I think that's a hard choice for them to have to make. And so sometimes that's how they get trapped into that luxury rental because they think, well, this isn't up to par to what I want. And so maybe I should just stay renting until I can afford something that I think I want. Once again, it's really hard to outsave the market. So you're kind of always going to be chasing the market. Just be aware of that. But it brings up a good point. And that is that, millennials and Gen Z, they are the people who are dictating the kind of properties that they want, right? So while we have issues now with not enough housing, etc., in the future, we're going to have some other different things because the boomers, as they retire and sell their homes, I think a lot of the millennials and Gen Z are basically going to step up and say, hey, your house isn't what I want. Your house doesn't have the layout I want. It doesn't have the family space that I want on each floor. It doesn't have enough finished space for me. It doesn't have home office space for me either. So these are some of the challenges we're going to have as these homes pass from one generation to the next. It's going to be an interesting challenge, I think that over the next 10 years, we're going to see a lot of these issues where we're not seeing a meeting of the minds of the home purchaser and the inventory that's available. I think we're also going to see some shifts away from some of our more traditional retirement locations, right? So boomers who are trying to sell in this area, they've always wanted to go to Florida. I don't know. Florida's starting to become a thing. It's a little less affordable than it used to be. And with the new flood concerns, et cetera, that we see, flood insurance may become too expensive. It may start to price folks out of it who are in that retirement world. And so they may turn their attention to other places, Arizona, Idaho, Utah, the Carolinas, places where they are still building new construction and house prices are a little more normalized, right? So anyway, and of course, we're always going to see jobs, being the dictator of where new construction goes. And then, of course, where new construction goes is also where people go, where they choose to live. They follow the jobs, they follow the housing. The end of the first quarter is an interesting thing because we've come to a place now where we recognize the economy is strong. GDP is strong. Jobs are strong. But yet, when you talk to people, they feel like they're not doing as well as they did, even though they may have gotten their 3% price, raises, etc. But things are feeling expensive, right? And it feels like not everybody can afford a house. So you may not feel like you're doing as well, even though all the economic factors are strong, right? And you do see a lot of spending. It's possible that people who had been saving for a mortgage and scrimping and discovering that maybe they weren't going to get the house that they wanted, they've decided, well, maybe we'll take a little bit of that money, spend it, enjoy ourselves, have a little fun, because it's no fun to spend a bunch of time saving and then turn around and realize you can't have what you thought you were going to have. So maybe you should just, go on a good vacation for yourself. So we are seeing a little bit of that kind of behavior, but once again, still a very strong buyer pool, still not enough sellers, keeping the house prices buoyant. Guys, one thing to keep in mind, inflation is what it is, and I don't think we're ever going to see any of the interest rates or the prices that were pre-pandemic, right? Pre-COVID. That's just not going to happen anymore. We're just doing our best right now to keep inflation at that 2% growth, hopefully, right? I did want to take this moment and talk a little bit about, and I don't even have that much to say about it, but the lawsuit and the changes that are coming, or these changes that people think are coming. There's not very much to say until the whole thing is passed, because all of it is conjecture right now. And come July 15th, assuming that the courts move quickly, we should have some sort of resolution as to how this all shakes out. And what it really is about for me, you guys, I am like almost 20 years in the business. I have been doing this a long time. I have grown a really large business. And, I think what's going to become really important is consumers need to start to understand what it is that an agent is there for. Do I believe there's going to be people who choose to be unrepresented? Absolutely, because there are states that do that now anyway. All right. And if you choose to be unrepresented, that's fine. You're going to get what you pay for. And that's okay, because sometimes that is the choice you make, right? You weigh the checks and balances of whether you want to have a really solid professional working with you. And if you decide that you want to forego the advice of a professional because you just want to go it alone, that's okay. We're going to see how that all shakes out, right? I do think it's going to be difficult in some places, because even access to homes can be difficult if you're unrepresented. So, you may end up finding yourself hiring transaction agents, etc., to kind of just handle certain things for you. But like I said, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I think what's really going to be important is understanding what an individual real estate agent, how they're different, and what level of service they can actually offer you, right? This is very much the same as if you go to a doctor, right? If you go to a doctor and that doctor's not as good as not as good as another doctor, the doctor that has more experience and is slightly better at his job is going to command a higher price than the doctor that has less experience and is less good at their job, which is the case. I believe this is capitalism and the free market economy. Like, this is how it goes, right? The person who has more experience and is better at their job is going to get paid more. And the person who's less experienced and less good at their job is going to get paid less. And it's up to you. You, the consumer, have to decide who you want to pay for. Do you want to pay for a higher level of service, mid-range service, low level of service? Your outcomes will likely be directly affected by who you choose. And I think that's okay. I don't really have an issue with that, because I do have to say, I've always thought it was a little bit weird that, if you, that the buyer agent payout on a listing is the same, whether that buyer agent was good or bad. And as a listing agent, I spend a lot of time going, ooh, that was a tough transaction. And it's kind of sort of is frustrating in moments when I'm like, man, I got to pay out that buyer agent, even though that buyer agent didn't do anything. And then there are times when I've been like, this buyer agent was amazing. What a wonderful partner in helping us get to the finish line. and they deserve every penny they get for that buyout. So this, moving forward, is going to be a situation where you, the consumer, get to decide what you want and what level of service you want. And yes, it will be tied directly to the outcomes. And once again, that's a decision that's entirely up to you. Capitalism is capitalism, right? And may the best person win. All right. That's kind of it for the day for me. I'm hoping you enjoyed this little first quarter update. I'll be back next week to resume other things and other conversations. And by the way, don't forget, if you find any value in our videos, I ask you to kindly subscribe, to share, to comment, to like. It's greatly appreciated because it helps us reach more consumers, and hopefully reaching more consumers will help them have a better experience in their real estate world. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week.